Welcome to the Complete Agent podcast, where each week we get together to talk all things estate agency. This isn't David Warburton, obviously, doing this intro. He is on a roadside somewhere in Manchester, broken down. However, I am joined by a very special guest, Mr. Sam Hunter, previously of Home Search. Are you still off Home Search, technically?
I'm like a activist shareholder, call it that.
So
Indeed.
just us. So what this means is, it's because there's no northern people on the podcast, it's going to be the best performing podcast we've ever had.
Yeah, potentially.
Without a doubt. So We'll kick off with our usual tradition, and I'll go to you, and I've no idea what you're about to say, but I'm going to ask you, Sam, how's your week been?
How has my week been? I got a dog on Sunday.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
what have you got?
We rescued a greyhound, and we might actually be unrescuing her as early as tomorrow based on the week that we've had in my house.
Oh, God.
Yeah, she's a great dog. She's like chilled out, quiet. She's just enormous and has huge teeth, and that's not great for
massive.
A baby and a 5-year-old. Yeah, and like Charlotte's coming around, but Emma's pretty freaked out every time she sees the dog. And I'm pretty sure that I love my daughter more than I love the dog we've had for 5 days, but she's a really good dog. So, we've been up at sort of like 3:45 every morning because the dog wakes up with like the possums coming home from their nights of gallivanting around. And so when I said to you, I was like, I'm good for half an hour. We'll see how we go after that. This for everyone listening, James, put this in my diary as a 13.5-hour podcast.
We're going to break a record.
At 15 p.m. and finishes at 9:15 a.m. tomorrow morning for me. So I was like, all right, we'll strap in and see where it goes. So I've had a cup of coffee to keep me going. Outside of getting a dog, it's been a good week. We've settled 2 properties this week. We've engaged 3 new clients. Haven't bought a house yet, but we'll see how we go. We're bidding at 3 auctions on the weekend. I was just on a auction strategy meeting with one of our clients prior. Funny story, because he won't listen to this. One of our new guys, because we've just grown the business, has done all the work for these guys. Found them a great property. It's going to auction, which is fine. We'll compete if we have to. And I was like, Luke's going to, be there and do all the bidding and stuff like that. And they're like, can we have you? I was like, yeah, potentially. We can move diaries around and make it work. So, there's a lot going on in my world, which is good. Most of it is positive. Most of it's productive. Probably more positive than productive on some days. But I don't have a lot of complaints. I was getting a pretty high level of sleep and feeling like I was taking care of myself until the week that's just gone. So, life's good, man. How about you?
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, it's been a really good month for us this month. The market's turned in the UK, you'll be pleased to know, from the turn of the year. I mean, for us, at the mid to upper end, probably what we're thinking, October, November, December was pretty dire, to be honest. We got some sales under our belt. We kind of kept our heads above water, so to speak. But then the good times didn't really start to roll until the second week of Jan. And I think we only did possibly 7 units in Jan, but our average fee was just under 20 grand, I think, in January, which is massive because we sold some big units. And then Feb, we've agreed, I think we're on 18 sales. And so I think we said last week on the pod, there'll be corporates that go, 18 sales, peasant. But for us, we probably sell about 90 houses a year. So to put that into context, to do 18 in a month, and average fees are this month down a bit, but still very, very respectable, over 10. So it's been a good month, and it's a mix. Stuff at 400 or 500. I'm trying to get one under my belt at 3 million at the moment, which we're negotiating. We're negotiating hard. I'm think the next few days, hopefully we'll get there. But that will probably start us off really good for March, rather than break a record month for February, if that makes sense. But it's been really good.
I got 2 follow-up questions for you, and I know we said before we hit record that you were going to do all the questioning, but I'm interested. Would you rather have a month where you did 8 and they're all at 20 grand, or would you rather have a month where you did 18 at 10? And then explain to me and everybody who's listening to this show what the difference between a £3 million negotiation is and a 500 grand negotiation.
Yeah, okay. Really good question. So The first question, definitely 8, because less is more. And it's like when because obviously we've got the complete agent where agents join, and me, Ian, and Dave have all come from doing £999 fees, right? So when we first started our businesses, I talk from my own personal experience. 15 years ago now, yeah, blimey, 15 years ago now. And I was convinced it was all going away with the internet. Everyone was going to be, it was cheap, commoditized estate agency. That's the way it was going. Destroyed my soul, nearly went out of business in the first 6 months. Pivoted, went from 999 to a whole 1%. I know, big time. Average fee then, again, selling 2-bed terraces and 3-bed semis. I used to get really excited about a £3,000 fee back then. And it's just, to be honest, having done both, and I was always of the opinion before that because I'm not from like generational wealth and I didn't go to a private school, and I don't have a double-barreled surname. Sorry, anyone listening if you do, but I wasn't equipped to sell, and who am I to be selling higher-end homes? I had the ability and I had the talent and I had the passion for it, but it was never in kind of, I think it was a confidence thing. And I think it's a confidence thing for a lot of people.
For sure.
A lot of people are just, you've got to quote Richard Branson, just go, screw it, let's do it. Going from 999, and I mean, look, put it this way. 1 year when we were selling houses at 1% and we had an office and we were doing the sort of lower end of the market, we did, I think, 217 sales 1 year. I think our average fee was, well, I know our average fee, I think it was £1,800 plus that. Now, you do the maths there, right? Really quickly. Let's just pretend it's £2,000, right? That's 440 grand turnover, roughly, right? And then you can sell 90 odd houses and turn over the best part of £1 million. Like, it's just a completely, it's a much nicer place to be. You've only got to look at the data, to quote our mutual friend Gatesy. Look at 50% of properties that come to market don't sell, or 52% of properties that come to market don't sell. The stuff that we put on, we exchange on at about 80% of what we put on, right? To put that into context, if you look at 220 sales and you get 20% that drop off, that's 40 sales that you're potentially working with for 6 months that aren't going to pay you any money. It just
well,
it's a
actively
completely
costing
different
you.
way. Exactly that. And you're employing people as well, because to manage volume, you've got to have a team and a system in place. And it's just, there's some people out there that do it really well. And I'm not saying they're just low end of the market, but in terms of a volume agency, I think the gold standard, and it has been proven in the country, is probably someone like Michelle Gallagher at JDG. She does high volume estate agency, does it really well, makes lots of money, and is a brilliant agent and a really good person actually as well. That was a really long way of answering your first question. Now, that's what we do. That's how we do it in the podcast. The second question is a £3 million negotiation compared to a £500,000 negotiation. Now, to unpack that a little bit, a lot of it depends on the person that you're dealing with. So park the value for a second. And you'll know this yourself when you're helping people buy houses, right? Going back to computer games, like when you're in the sort of mid to lower end of the market, you get a certain amount of characters that you deal with. Generally, like, there'll be first time sellers, second time sellers, maybe downsizers, or a probate where they're selling a family home. They're generally, or families upsizing. They're generally the same sort of people, if that makes sense. Different people have got different sort of personalities, and there'll be different nuances in what people are like, depending on how they've lived their lives. But generally, you deal with the same sets of people round and round and round. When you get to, I would say, the mid to, look, you've got the mid, I would say prime and super prime. And when you're dealing with the prime / super prime market, it's like, when you completed the game and you unlock new characters and you face new bosses.
Yeah.
And this is what it's like. So, you're not dealing with, with respect, the manager of Tesco's anymore. You're dealing with a CEO of
Tesco's.
4 or 5 different companies. Or Tesco's. Yeah, well, yeah, exactly. That's a great way of putting it. So you're no longer dealing with the manager, you're dealing with the CEO. And with that comes, Elon Musk and the manager of your local Tesco, for example. are, if you sat down with them and had a conversation, you're probably not going to have a similar conversation with both, and you're probably not going to take out of the conversation that you did with both. But as a result, there comes a almost power play dynamic sometimes in some negotiations where they know that they're very successful. They've done this a few times before. They're trying to. Sometimes it can turn into a. I mean, this scenario, by the way, isn't like this. But just in context, there are other scenarios where it can be a bit of a dick swinging competition. In that scenario, where they've got X amount of money, and I want to buy this house, and I will buy this house, and this is how it's going to go because they're used to getting their own way. But the reality is, I'm working for the seller, so my job is to get the seller the best price, not you the best deal. And they may have dealt with agents before where they can sort of push them around and use their position as a bit of power. And the agent goes, oh, "Okay, sir, yes, yeah, that'd be great." Then sort of nodding dog. Whereas you need the power play dynamic is you need to be on the same level. You need to be able to have that conversation with them so that they buy in and trust you, but also so you can have the right sort of conversation. But anyway, so in this negotiation in particular, and again, sometimes it can be similar to the mid end of the market. Sometimes it won't. But generally, sometimes they tend to be quite protracted negotiations. So if somebody's spending, I don't know, upwards of 2 million quid on a house, there's a good chance it's going to be cash, first of all. So there's no mortgage or anything to worry about. And it's less about what they think it's worth. Less about what the bank thinks it's worth and more what they think it's worth and whether they want it and how easy it is to buy the house. But also equally, they're busy people. So you're not necessarily going to get a call first thing at 9 o'clock the morning after putting an offer in on the house. It'll be right. Well, we're going to research the area. We're looking into the private schools, for example. We've got a meeting at the private school to see if there's a space for little Jimmy or little Charlie or whatever. And then we'll go back for a second viewing. So we've done a second viewing, and that was almost a week apart from the first viewing. The second view, how's it feel? Yeah, it's good. And then in some ways, it's the same but different, but we were trying to, and this is where I think what separates average from good and good from great in terms of agency is in the quality of the questions that you ask the buyers when they're around, right? So in this scenario, we're looking around the kitchen, dining sort of area in the house, and I could feel the vibe in the room, and I was like, "What's wrong?" And she goes, "I'm just not sure this room's going to work." I said, "Why is that?" And she said, "Well, we really wanted kitchen, dining, family." I said, "Okay." I said, "So talk me through what that looks like in your house at the moment." Because bear in mind, they live in a house that's probably triple the size of this. But there's two of them now. And I said, "Talk me through that." "Well, we like to have people over for dinner, blah, 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 blah." But okay, I understand that. "So how many times have you done that in the last 12 months? So Mr. goes, 5 or 6 times, probably. Oh, and I said, "Okay." I said, "And how many times have you done that in your dining room?" And then Mrs. chimes in and goes, "Well, no, we've done it once." I said, "Right." I said, "So what's the purpose of you moving? Time. And what does this house deliver to you? This house delivers time to you, doesn't it? Because it allows you to be within 10 minutes of your family rather than an hour and a half. So do you think we could find a solution in one of the other rooms for a dining table you use once a year, and we could make this work by laying it out in such a way like this?" And then it was like a light bulb had gone off in their head, because they were almost getting in the way of themselves, thinking about how they were going to live, when the reality is that they're not the same people anymore. The people that they used to have around the house 15 years ago, when the kids were at home and people would come to them and this, that, and the other, that was different. And I said, life is different now. So this house offers you, and the reason you're looking at this house in the beginning is because it offers you time. It's not a 15-seater dining table that you're probably never going to use in the kitchen, dining, living space. So you could do, and all of a sudden, it flipped. I just think if somebody had walked around and gone, This is the kitchen. This is the lounge. I'll let you guys look around. Come and see me if you've got any questions. I think that agent could have possibly lost that client a sale. And what's Tommy P say in Australia? There's nothing more expensive than having a hot buyer in front of a crap agent.
Yeah, ain't that the truth? I think your point's bang on. There's a quote that I like that I've bastardized, as I do for everything, and relate it back to real estate. And it's like, you don't win a Nobel Prize because of the answers you give. You win a Nobel Prize because of the questions you ask.
Yeah.
And so I've heard that and I've gone, you don't win the business because of the answers you give. You win the business because of the questions you ask, right? And in this instance, it's winning the listing or it's selling a house, right?
Yeah.
And whenever we make an offer on a property, flip this on the inverse, right? The old mate could have asked you better questions to understand your seller's motivations a bit more. Like you've done the agent thing. I'm here to get you them the best price, not you the best deal type scenario, right? Well, it's like, well, help me understand why we're even having this conversation.
Yeah.
And so we won't make an offer until we understand their motivations, because the motivation will help us determine where we stop on price. Because if they're fucked and they're getting divorced and they've sold a house and they've got to sell this because they've bought something else, so it's a financial, or I saw a house today that we'll make an offer on tomorrow. They want 2.4. I think it's worth 2.2. We're going to offer them 2.2. They bought a house 6 months ago with a tenant, and the tenant just served notice. Tenant's out next week. They can't afford to hold 2 mortgages without the tenant paying a portion of the rent. So they're like looking for a 21-day settlement. We always talk about how fast things move in Australia. Well, if we make an offer tomorrow, they can move in by the 19th of March, right?
Wow.
It'll be hectic. There's a lot of work that'll happen, and it'll be stressful for probably 17 of those 21 days, but it can happen. And I'm like, the agent's telling me all this, and I'm just like, cool, bro. Thank you. As in, like, I wouldn't have told me that, right?
No.
But
you got to ask the right questions, right?
Making the most of the market before Easter because everyone's out looking and it's as busy as it's ever been. It's the perfect time to be selling.
Yeah.
Right? And that's like, people always, I think on the sales side, they shy away from talking the market up to buyers because they think it's going to scare buyers off. But if someone asks you why you're selling, it's like, because it's the best time to sell in the last 4 years. You said at the start of this conversation that the market's back, right? So every time someone's selling, your default is like, because it's the best time to sell since COVID. And they're making the most of it. And they think it's the right time to make the move for them. Right? Just like you guys do. And the buyer's like,
I wanted to ask you a couple of questions, Sam, because you're on the buying side, right? So you're obviously Australia. There'll be different nuances, like you say, in terms of how quickly it can happen. But largely agency is the same around the world, right? People buy and people sell. Yeah.
Yep.
So
everyone's in the bed.
From a buying agent perspective, because there are buying agents in the UK, and we've offered buying service before, but it's not something that's kind of out there. But I feel like it's something that's going to be coming a lot more mainstream soon. One thing I like, so obviously I should have worn my hoodie actually today. I've got a Happy Buyers
Club hoodie.
I should have worn it. I'm disappointed I didn't actually. I'm very sorry about that. I apologise. My daughter was a nightmare getting ready this morning, so my brain was all over the place. But one of the things I noticed on your Instagram, so last time we talked, you talked about your area guides and how the candid sort of area guides where you film the streets on Instagram. We've actually got some footage banked from before, and we're building up a little bank in the background. The problem is I need a videographer really as well as a photographer, but we're slowly building a library in the background to get that out where we are. But one of the things I noticed, and that's a great tip, by the way, so anyone that's listening, do you want to just unpack that for 30 seconds for anyone that's listening to this that maybe hasn't listened to the last pod? What a great idea that was, and what results
other than things that I do with my wife, there's very little I can do in 30 seconds.
And you could do that in 3 times in 30 seconds.
Yeah. What am I unpacking? The videos.
Yeah, so they're the area guides that you do.
Yeah, we're just about to change them actually, because we've been doing them for 2 years and they work. Actually, the most leads that we get in a weekly basis are always off the back of a Sunday night video about a suburb, because people find them funny and engaging and entertaining, and they are pretty useful as well in terms of we provide a bit of market data, but it's all context. So it's like, why do people like this place? Not just the prices are nice and the houses are nice. So we go and spend half an hour driving. We used to get out of the car and like film us walking past houses and try and get the right shots and everything like that. And you have a far more premium brand than we do. We're raw and real, like I am, I guess. We're a reflection of each other, right? You're quite polished. I'm not.
I'll take that.
And I think your brand, particularly your new brand, is quite polished. So I get why you're banking it, and you haven't just done is better than perfect it, right? It's not a criticism. I think I can understand the positioning that you want that content to have. Whereas for us, the videos can be literally anything, right? We've actually started recycling all the B-roll we've been gathering for 2 years, and we just pull this microphone out because what we have to say is the value.
Yeah.
People trust the insight that comes out of our mouth, not how well we're filming a nice house, right? We don't even get out of the car anymore. We wind the window down, put the phone out and drive really slow.
Yeah.
And it's done. A suburb can be done in 15 minutes that way. We're just about to change it. So instead of it being spend 60 seconds in Ashgrove or Holland Park with me, we're going to be like, why we buy Holland Park? Or why do we buy in Ashgrove? Because we want it's a bit of a subtle sell, right? Of like, oh shit, they're buying Ashgrove. I'm buying in Ashgrove. I should probably talk to these guys.
Yes.
Right. And then it's effectively the same video. It's just like, we like it because this X, Y, and Z. You know, we're a couple of tired dads. We've recruited 3 new people this year. 2 of them are parents as well. That's one of our kind of big things. We deal with a lot of families. It's more rewarding work. So it's just like our kids love this park, right? I'm at a coffee shop where like you can get a cup of coffee for under $6 and it's good. Just all that sort of stuff.
I saw that reel as well, by the way. It just reminded me. You and Chase did a reel in the coffee shop. That was amazing. If you guys, if you're listening, guys, and you haven't seen it, Happy Buyers Club on Instagram. I don't know how long ago it was now. It must be 3 months ago now.
Was,
did that?
So we did like a Love Actually Christmas video where like we had the cards up and we held them up about trying to buy someone's house directly from them. Every year in December we do like a funny video every week just to break it up a bit, and everyone's on their phones in December because they're not working. So it does quite well from us in terms of a attraction thing, and then it's just real estate, hell for leather real estate from like end of Jan to start of December. But yeah, that was no. There's no price on property in Brisbane. So you see a house for sale. There'd have been probably 240 properties listed across Brisbane today. I would bet my life that less than 10 have an asking price.
Wow, why is that?
It's all because that's the way Tom Panos and others told people to do it.
Okay, so blame Tom. Tom, if you're listening, you're not, but if you are.
Yeah, I'll debate you anytime about it. And it's great for us because we can just take the piss out of real estate agents not giving a price guide, right?
Yeah.
And it's like, and their whole thing is like, we've never talked to the seller about price. And I'm like, you mean to tell me that they decided to sell the most expensive asset they have and they have never asked your opinion, the professional who's going to be selling it, who's going to represent it to them, who's going to try and get them the most money, what do you think it's worth? Come on, guys. So
that's funny.
So we did a video where it was like, what if buying a coffee was priced by negotiation? And it just went through that's the experience that everyone feels where Chase wanted to buy a cup of coffee. The guy's like, and that's useless on a podcast because no one can see what I'm doing. But he's like, what are you talking about, dude? Like, and Chase is like, how much? And the guy's like, well, similar coffees are selling from like $5 to $9. What do you want to do? Chase is like, fuck it, I'll give you $9. And he's like, oh, sorry, bro, I've sold it to that guy for $10. And it comes to me drinking a cup of coffee.
That was so good. I really enjoyed that. That was hilarious.
That's just like the obscenity of no price marketing, which is what real estate agents call it. Here, and it happens a lot in Australia, but it's particularly rife in Brisbane, and it's because agents don't want to lose the listing on price, so they just say we won't have one and we'll just take offers and you can make your mind up. But
that's genius, to give you guys credit. That's genius marketing. You're two guys. You're not an advertising agency. I mean, everyone is an advertising agency, I guess now, and a media agency, but like, you put it, and it was just, I thought it was hilarious. Like you could see that advert on the TV. Like it was that well put together. It was so good.
Yeah.
Another thing you guys do really well. Sorry, mate. Go on. You go.
Well, I was saying, like, we definitely aren't a creative agency, but nothing stops us from trying stuff. And I'd urge everybody who's listening to this that maybe doesn't have a sexier brand as James and is super protective of his black and white imagery, just fucking have a crack. You'd be surprised at how well received it'll be.
Yeah, and it's personality, isn't it? People want to see the brand, whereas I suppose we're trying not to be too stiff in our brand because we're having our photos and everything redone soon as well, because I felt like our profile photos are a little bit stiff and staged. And that's not who we are. We're not don't want to come across as like we're not a boring agency. We're not like we're not like, hey, we're the hip fun agency. You know, we're not trying to be that. We're just trying to be in the middle of. We're just real people that help people move house and sell it for a premium price by delivering outstanding marketing and negotiation. That's kind of it in
it's
a nutshell.
Interesting. Our website is the most formal part of our business, and we get leads from our website, and you know we make sure that it reflects the service and the experience that we have and offer. Like we don't swear on the website, and we don't have any of our videos on the website, but what we do on socials separates us meaningfully from our competition and from the real estate industry as a whole. And that's, people don't really have a problem with real estate agents. They have a problem with the process.
Yeah.
Because it's just shit. It's buying, selling, renting, even being a landlord, everything sucks. And we call that out, and people love us for it.
So and 2 questions on the back of that. So,
yeah.
two things,
so many like different questions deep. I don't even know what your first one was going to be.
We don't know. We're just going with it. So if you're listening and you're following with this, just enjoy. Done. Just enjoy the gold. Just enjoy it all. The first thing I was going to say just before was I love the and I'm fully going to steal this, by the way, the new buyers that you've registered on your Instagram. That is great, and that is absolute gold that UK agents can use as well. Even if you're not a buying agent and you're prospecting for new listings, you can. What I love about it is that it's not too formal, is what I want to say. So it's not like Mr. and Mrs. C are looking for a house up to 3 million. Like what I loved was like, I don't know, so and so NW family looking for X school. This is their budget, bang, bang, bang. And then what I loved on the next slide was their vibe.
Yeah,
bit
vibe.
You put on where you put like, and it's relatable to what they're looking for.
Yeah, man, we use the word vibe in our business every day. And like it's as much as it's, you know, a fun word to use, it's also very strategic because, and again, let's talk about your guys at 3 million quid, right? It's not a logical decision to spend 3 million quid, no matter how much money you have in the bank, right? You got to feel it. If they walked into that house and they didn't feel it, they didn't feel the vibe, it didn't have a vibe, this intangible quality, they don't buy it, right? No. Even for people at 500 grand, yes, it's a bit more logical because it's like, I'm just getting on the ladder. But when our average purchase price is just a little bit under $2 million, and people aren't going to go and spend $2 million unless they feel something, right? So our whole USP and why we use vibe very strategically is we don't really, all the other real estate agents, all the other buyers agents, as far as we can tell, potentially in Australia, put photos of the front of the house. We go and take photos of the little nooks where there's a lamp and a beautiful piece of art and a chair because it's a vibe. And I'd be like, if I lived here, I'd sit there, right? That would make me feel at home, that part. Right?
Yeah.
Not the front of the house that's just been house washed for the sale. I don't see that when I'm living in my house. And so we started using vibe, and then we say to our clients, like part of our pitch when we're like having a kind of meeting or a pitch with a potential new client is like, we'll take care of the features, we'll take care of the due diligence, we'll tell you if it floods, we'll tell you what we think it's worth, we'll tell you why they're selling. All you have to worry about is if you like it. Right? Yeah. And if you guys walk in there and you don't look at each other in the eye and kind of make that, you know, the face that everyone makes when they like a house where they're like, yeah. And then their brain is like, fuck. Because buying a house is really a lot of fun until you find something you like. And then suddenly you feel like you have something to lose. Yeah. And so I said, that's your, like, when you feel that, you tell me and we'll go and make sure we buy it. Right? If you don't feel that, you tell me and we'll give great feedback and move quickly on to the next one.
One of the lines I use when people come to buy, and I use this with these guys in particular as well, is that, you know, when you're showing somebody a really pretty house, I always say to people, buying a house like this is like buying a luxury supercar, you know, a sports car, something that you've always wanted. And if you don't close the door on the car and look back at it after you've walked away from it, you've bought the wrong car. And it's the same thing with a house. So if you don't close the front door of this house and then look back at it afterwards, you've probably bought the wrong house. And it works really, really well, and it's so powerful. So, you know, I'll take people in the garden, like in this house in particular, the garden's super impressive, and it's absolutely, like, it's dreamy from the front. Like, it's just perfect. So you take people right in the middle of the garden, you look back at the house, and I'd say could you honestly look back at that and think you've made a wrong decision? Could you really not come home to this every day and think you've made a wrong decision? Because they looked at
What if the
another
guy
house.
turns around and goes, I fucking hate gardening, James?
Yeah, so we'll get a gardener. Luckily, this gardener's going to stay on.
It. Yeah.
Exactly. I've got a good gardener for you.
Yeah, nice.
Now, what's your excuse? How much do you want to pay?
So I can't afford a gardener if you're going to charge him £3 million.
Well, if you've got £3 million, arguably you could afford a gardener.
That's true.
That's my argument. So I love the buyers, and I think agents could use that in the UK, and I'm certainly going to use it for new buyer registrations to get obviously inquiries for new properties. So that is great. And so again, I'm fully ripping that off, just FYI. So please don't sue me. Are we out of jurisdiction here in the UK?
But everything I do is a copy of something else anyway. So
okay, fine. You heard it here first. I'll clip that. And so, what advice would you give to an agent that wants to help somebody buy a house in the UK? Like they're acting as a buying agent. What's 3 things?
If they're acting as a buyer's agent, or if they just want to help them?
Let's go with acting as a buying agent, because that, from a professional standpoint. So if somebody wants to get into buyer representation, what's 3 things from someone that does this day in, day out and is very good at it?
As to how they can go about helping someone?
Yeah. Don't overthink it. Just like, what first things that come to your
head? Listen, have an opinion, and work really hard.
And simple as that.
Yeah. So listen to what they want. But don't be like, so again, part of our process, we give everybody who sends us a lead. So while we've been talking, I've had a couple of leads, which Chase is texting now because he's like, don't worry, I got it. Our process is lead comes in between the hours of 7 p.m. And 7 a.m. 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. They get a text from one of us within the hour.
Yeah.
And that says like, hey, it's Sam. You've probably seen us on the internet. Do you want to have a chat? We can do this time or this time tomorrow, or this time today, or this time and this time next week. Most of the time they reply straight away and they're like, wow, thanks for coming back to me so quick, because no one replies to inquiries quickly, right?
Yeah.
And they tell us what they're looking for. We have a chat with them. We call that initial chat a discovery call. Mm-hmm. And in that call, I'm like, tell me about your pain, right? Because no one would talk to me unless they're hurting, because why would they pay more money to buy a house?
Yeah.
Right? And yet last year, 75 people did, which was cool. And I asked them, like, tell me what you're looking for. Why? And within that conversation, I'm listening for, does their budget line up with what they want? Does the area line up with their budget? Does the area line up with what they think they want? If they've just moved to Brisbane and they want a really nice family area and they're going to buy in a shithole suburb. And that's where I have an opinion. And I'll say to them, I was just like, I'm going to do some homework and I'm going to set you some homework. And what we do is we go and look at everything that is sold in the last 3 months that matches the bedrooms, the bathrooms, the suburb, and the budget that they've told me about. I send them that list and I say, give me your feedback. Right? Because I haven't earned the right to tell them that what they're looking for doesn't exist or that they're delusional yet. But I will always tell them that if they are, before they've paid me an engagement fee to get started, because it's bad business for me if I can't buy a house, and it's shit business for them if I say, yeah, no worries, it's sweet. And I just thought that was common sense. But it turns out most buyers agents will be like, let's get started today. And they have that conversation with them 6 weeks later. So I'd listen to what they want first. Then I'd set them some homework and I'd show them. And if there's 30 sales and they all come back and we have a drop down next to the comments and it's love, like, it's okay, fucked, right? If we're talking to like an older couple, we change it to hell no. And if it comes back and everything's red, right, regardless of what it says, I get the chance to say to them, hey, there's probably a few things that we need to talk about your search. And it's either going to help you buy yourself or it's going to help me do a really good job and add some value to you. So I've earned the right by doing that homework exercise and they've given me feedback. And if someone does that exercise overnight after I've given it to them, I know they're a client because they're so engaged. You ask someone to do something for you and they do it, you're like, cool, that's a client if I can help them. If it's a lot of loves, some likes, then there's a search there we can get going. We're all really confident we can add value. If there's a lot of no thankses or hell no's, then it's like, all right, guys, so much of real estate is about compromise. Where are you willing to compromise in what you told me? Because what you want doesn't look like it exists, right?
Yeah.
And it's very uncommon for people to say no to 30 properties in a row without even trying to buy one. So I'd listen, I'd have an opinion, which is challenging them, and I work really hard, right? So I think the job I do now is probably outside of like being a parent, the most rewarding job I've ever had.
Yeah.
Because people are so stoked when they buy something, right?
Yeah.
They're pretty happy when they sell something, but it's different. It really is.
It's
And
life
I
changing.
remember back to my real estate career was good because my kind of guiding principle, and we use this as home search, was that every seller started as a buyer. So I always just talk, and this is if coming back to my question of, is this about buyers agents or selling agents? Have that mindset, right? So you register a buyer and you know they've got a house to sell. Don't ask them about the appraisal, right? Set them some homework about what they want to buy.
So what would that look like then? So someone rings in and
go
says,
on Rightmove sold, and they said, I want to live in Milton Keynes around the 15th roundabout. I don't know, somewhere, right? And so you go Milton Keynes, what they want, bedrooms, bathrooms, price range, sold. And you'd send them a list of all the 30 sales that have sold in the last 3 or 4 months or however long it would take. 30 is a good number, right? Because it's not a small data set. And the more time they invest in the homework exercise, the more they're going to become your client, right? And you send them that and you're just like, hey, I want to be able to help you. So I'm going to send you everything that's sold, whether it's me or anybody else. You tell me which ones you would have bought if you were ready. Right. And
so
I'll keep an eye.
That's the question I actually ask. I ask people when I talk to them about property, have you seen anything already that you would have bought? And when they say yes, I'll pull it up on Rightmove and it will give me a good idea of what it is they're after. And then I'll follow up with a question of why didn't you buy it? And then the next question is, the answer to that then dictates where we go with the conversation. So, if the answer to that question is, I didn't buy, or we weren't on the market, or we're not sold, or this, that, and the other. So you would have bought it if you were on the market and you were sold. So what stopped you? So again, the follow-up question from that is, so what stopped you from getting on the market to this point to be able to make an offer? Or we hadn't found something that we liked. Well, what have you learned from this experience? These are the kind of thing. Whereas somebody else is picking up the phone, as you quite rightly say, and is saying, "Okay, bedrooms, bathrooms, how much you want to spend?
Budget.
Got a mortgage in place? Can we offer you a free no obligation valuation for your property?"
Yeah, and it's the same here. Like you said before, like real estate is exactly the same everywhere in the world. People are trained to follow a really boring, really bland, really safe script, and it actually is a really unprofitable script as well. And that's the bit that everyone misses out. I think come back to your question, like listen first, offer an opinion once it's educated, and then work really hard. Like we compete to win people's business, not just away from anyone else who's doing the job that we're doing, but away from everyone telling them you don't need one and do it yourself.
So that was going to be my next question. I was going to ask you. Sorry,
well, then,
I know you're in the flow.
Once we win the business, we've then got to go and compete against every other buyer and every other buyer's agent in the market to go and buy the right house.
So you can buy a house on your own in Australia. You don't need a buying agent.
Yeah, of course.
So why would somebody use a buying agent? If somebody collared you in the lift and said, "Right, what's your elevator pitch, Sam?" Why would I use a buying agent?
All right, I'll flip it back to you. If you decided you were going to invest some of your $1 million in Australian real estate, would you do it yourself? Would you call me?
Well, I know you, so I would call you. You'd be the first person I'd call.
And so I have 2 years of videos on the internet where people know me and they call me instead because they know I can do it better than them and they know I'm going to bring them value and I'm probably going to save them money and save them time over and above the fee they're going to pay me.
So it's about saving money.
And it's about making better decisions and having confidence and buying the right thing. Ideally, we do save them some money because we can get it done quicker because we're just putting in the work. Like what we do and what anyone in real estate does is not rocket science, right? We all follow a process. There's nuance at various stages of the process, whether you're talking to somebody about a garden or a dining room, right? Or whether you're having a fairly high level negotiation or you're talking to them about, would you have bought it if you're under offer? Have you learned that lesson? Or if I'm talking to somebody about why do you want to have, you've got one kid, why do you want to have, and this is a story that we had on Monday, right? They were like, we absolutely need 3 bedrooms on the same level. And they told me they had 1 kid. And I was like, you guys are pregnant, right? And they're like, how'd you know? I'm like, because you need 2 more bedrooms. And like, yeah, we're having twins, right? So that's the nuance. That's the context, right? The middle bit is brute force. Get it on Rightmove, take good photos, write good copy, have an open home or private inspections, whatever it is, right? Run the process to ground. For us, it's how many people who have names and phone numbers of homeowners can we ring and tell them about our clients so that we get in the door early and ideally buy it early. And then nuance kicks in at the end of, is this the right house? Can we sense check the budget? The guys I was on the phone with before I joined this call, they've got a budget of $1.4 million. The house that we're interested in bidding on at auction on the weekend, I think will probably sell right up to 1.4. They've never seen it. They're buying it to live in eventually, but they both work in the mines a fair way away from Brisbane. So they've never seen it. So they're not emotional about it, even though they know it's a really good property. And I said to them, I was like, if you want my opinion, you can't overpay. But that doesn't mean that's the price we should pay. Right? And then I told them another story about a young couple who had the same thing. They loved the house. It was the one of one for them. They were adamant that there was not going to be another property, and they paid 60 grand more than I told them to pull up stumps.
Wow.
Right? And they were just like, no, we know. Like, thank you. We've been on this journey. We're here. We're ready to go. Did I add a lot of value to them in terms of cost saving? Probably not. But did I give them the confidence to go for a really good house? For sure. Because we've done all our homework. With these guys, it's the same thing. I was like, hey, I'm going to jump on a call with my mate in England to talk about real estate for an hour. And they were like, that's weird. And I said, yep, it is. But I said, you guys talk about it tonight. And whatever that number is, we write it down. And if we buy it, great. If we don't buy it, fucking who cares? We'll buy another house. There's always another property.
So let me ask you a question then. Why do you think buying agents, I don't know what accent that is. Why do you think buying agents aren't as prevalent in the UK?
My immediate thought was because English people are cheap.
Yes, that's true.
My next thought is it's too much work for the fees you guys charge. Yeah.
And I think the thing that comes to my mind is, and this is probably a little bit controversial and people will hate me for this, but I don't care, but 95% of agents just aren't very good.
For sure. I mean, you could the fact that there's a price. If I was a buyer's agent in the UK, I'd charge a fixed fee up front and then a percentage of any money I saved from asking price to wherever it landed. Right?
Yeah.
So my fee would be, if I'm buying £1.5 million houses, my fee would be £25,000 plus VAT. And then I charge 20% of the gap.
Yeah.
Right. And that's my incentive. So you're paying for service and then there's an incentive on top. Because nothing's priced here in Australia, I couldn't charge the gap. So we charge $30,000 inclusive of GST. So 27,2727 plus 10% GST. And that's a good fee for us, right? We buy a good month for us. We do 10 settlements. The business as usual month will be between 5 and 6.
Yeah.
We're not poor. I don't think we're the richest people in real estate. We don't really want to be. We still don't see our kids enough, which is why we're trying to find people to come in so we can work a little bit less.
Yeah.
But people seem to see that as a proportionate value exchange for the insight and knowledge and experience and sense of humor and fun that we bring. And we don't really come up against other people, and we don't ever face fee conversations because everybody that talks to us has been watching us for a year and listening to our podcast. And you know, I say all the same things when I meet someone to work with them than they've been listening to. So they're like, oh, he is who he says he is. That's cool. I feel like I already know him. Right?
That's one thing I would say about we never met like in person, have we? But I've like I said, we've spoken for years ever since you were doing the other pod in the UK. And I you know, you are who you are. Like before you press record, you know, before you come on a podcast, the same guy shows up. And Gatesy, Gatesy is obviously a massive advocate of yours. I know he still hasn't come to see you in Australia.
No,
but
I'll stop inviting him soon.
Well, the UK real estate industry has you to thank for, I think, for Simon Gates, because you teased him out of his corporate life and created the beast that he is today. That's one thing, actually. Again, I hadn't really asked you about this beforehand, and it wasn't really on my list of things to ask you, but I'm intrigued now that I've just brought it up really quickly because I'm conscious of time. Is that one of the things I was talking to an agent about the other day in TCA was talent acquisition. And if you're able to, if not, I'll just delete this part of the podcast out. But what was it that made you go, Simon Gates is the guy I need to speak to get him on board to bring Home Search to the next level.
He sent me a book. He sent me Never Split the Difference by Chris Voss. Yeah. So he sent me a copy of that book after he came on our podcast.
So where did this start, though? Can we just rewind a little bit? How did you? Where did the introduction? How did you come across each other?
He signed up to Home Search, and then we had a little table that sat in our office in Canary Wharf of like most users, like who's doing the most report. And at that point in time, it was you could type an address in, you could download a pretty rudimentary report, but it was good. And Simon was like always top of the list or pretty close to it. And so those people, we were like, we're going to learn something from them, right? So they're obviously enjoying it, which is great. But probably we want to know why they're enjoying it, how they're using it, and what makes that. And I think he valued the fact that someone picked up the telephone and asked for feedback.
Yeah.
And then he's a real estate nufty, which we all are, like, for our sins.
Yeah.
And we just got along like a house on fire. And then when we built Home Search off the back of me talking about what I believe to be good real estate practices. That's it, right? We never really talked about property data. We never really talked about reports. We talked about how you win a business, how you maintain a high fee, what does prospecting look like, all that sort of stuff. And you know what? The product fit really nicely into all of those best practices, right? And so it was a bit of strategy there, but I didn't want to be the guy that was like, hey, bro, do you want to have a look at my tech platform? It's sick.
You said that to all the boys.
And then like Mark and I didn't really know each other before the pod, and he rang me up and he was like, hey, I like the emails that you send out. Do you want to do a podcast? And I was like, for sure. And we did the first podcast, went out, got really drunk, went to a gay bar.
Yeah.
And now he's still one of my best mates.
This story, yeah.
Epic night. Don't remember any of it if anyone asks. So and when we were looking to grow our team, I didn't know Simon was being so mistreated, and I hope he doesn't mind me saying that, but I think they just walked all over him and didn't understand the sort of quality person that they had there, or someone who actually had a pretty fucking good idea of how to win business and how to talk to people and how to problem solve. And I was like, I like talking to that guy. Maybe he should sit next to me.
Yeah.
It wasn't really much more than that. And it's like we've just recruited 3 people into Happy Buyers Club here. And there were 3 people who were all buyers agents already. And there were 3 people who, when we were at an open home and we had clients looking for the same thing, they'd said hello to us and we'd say hello back to them.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, well, that's good. Because there's other buyers agents that we see and they're just like, oh, I can't talk to those guys. They're the idiots from the internet. Or like, you know, they're taking the clients that I used to get. And so it's been good. Like them being here, you know, you go through this imposter syndrome where you're like, are our processes any good? Are we good at what we do? Does everyone just do it like us? And they're all just like, holy fuck, this is so good.
Yeah.
You know? Which is great.
Well, one thing that's always stuck with me that Simon's always said about you is that you always kind of supported him with everything he wanted to do to grow. So, you know, when he said he was going to start his podcast while he was still there, that you supported him with that. Like, you know, when he did make the jump, you supported with that. Like, that's something I personally have tried to take on board in my business. In that, you know, if somebody wants to, you know, don't try and keep people in boxes. Like, allow them to grow. They don't put them in boxes in dark cupboards. Like, put them on the windowsill and allow them to grow. And
okay, Simon is not my child, right? But it's a good analogy, right? So imagine someone that you love, someone you care about, says that they want to do something that you believe will be inherently positive for them, right? But maybe damaging to other parts. So your kid wants to move out of home. You're going to hate it, but are you going to tell them, no, you can't move out of home. It's dangerous, right?
Yeah.
And like, I don't know if I've ever expressed this to Simon one-to-one. So he'll listen to this if he gets 49 minutes.
He'll be walking his dogs.
But when he asked me, can he start a podcast? My first thought was, yeah, obviously. But then my second thought was like, oh, well, he's on his way out.
Yeah.
So let's make the most of it while we can, right? Because why do it if you didn't have bigger dreams for yourself? And who the fuck am I to get in the way of someone's dreams, right?
Yeah.
What a dickhead. What a dick move if you did. And there's probably plenty of people that do it all the time. I don't know any of them. I think, excuse me, I think I'm really lucky that I've made more of the right connections in life than wrong.
Yeah.
Luck is the way I use to describe it, right? My wife and I say to each other all the time, it's like, fucking hell, we are lucky. Like, life's not perfect and we've been through some shit, right? Together and separate. And it didn't feel lucky at the time, but it's like the stock market. Take a macro, like a really bird's eye view, and it's all upside, right?
Yeah.
And so you'd be asking for bad luck if someone came along to you that you like genuinely deeply cared for and said they wanted to do something cool, and you were like, "No, don't do it. Just go back."
But
to
you know
your
what I
desk
think though, like to me, when you're saying all of this, like, and again, apologies if you're listening to this and you don't follow football. Sorry, Ian Story, but you know, it's a bit like being Sir Alex Ferguson, right, and taking on Ronaldo.
Big Ange, and I was like, "Yeah, it is like being Big Ange, isn't it?"
Just who we are, mate. Just who we are.
Yeah, it is fucking who we are, mate.
But having like being Sir Alex and having, and I'm a Chelsea fan, but just having Sir Alex and bringing Ronaldo through from Portugal, like Ronaldo won Premier Leagues and Champions Leagues with Man United, and you know he was part of the journey. Then he moved on to another club, and he always refers to Sir Alex as like his second father, right? And that relationship has always been there. From, you know, it may not have benefited immediately commercially afterwards, but the people that you're connected with throughout their life, people always remember how you treated them, not what you said, and how you made them feel.
I agree. I'll leave you with a deep thought, because I've just missed a call from Liz, and I said to her I'd be home at 8:00. It's 8:10.
Sorry.
And I'm not in my house. We don't get the chance to get, like, we all talk about our values, right? Keyword being talk. You don't get the opportunity to test those inherent values in life enough. And that's where you figure out who you are. Mm-hmm. I think the Simon instance is a version of that, but not one that, you know, that would have tested a friendship. That would have tested a genuine relationship, a brotherhood, right?
Mm-hmm.
But the example I'll use back to you there is, and this is probably where Fergie comes into, because I imagine he's a fairly values-driven motherfucker, right? And has been for a long time, and that is what has driven his personal and professional success. I bet he's a really good dad, and I bet he's a really good granddad as well, right? Not an easy dad, but a firm but fair and a good one. And that's what I think we all want to be as fathers, mothers, whatever it is. Well, we came home to Australia when the borders opened up for a 3-month holiday, right? We just raised quite a lot of money with Home Search. We were on a very good upward trajectory. And I, after being home for 3 days, made the decision that we weren't going to go back. Right? Because I saw the way that Charlotte, at that point in time, was 18 months old, never met her grandparents, was interacting with my mum. And my mum is all I have, right? Charlotte, at that point in time, was all she had if I was never around. And Liz and I just looked at each other and we was like, fuck, we're doing.
Mm-hmm.
Like, this is the dream, not business. Right? I mean, I like business. I'm addicted to it. It makes me happy. I think I'm good at it. You know, it's
purpose.
Your kids are your purpose, mate. Right? Sorry to sound like Ange Postecoglou there. It's just
who you are.
Yeah, it's just who I am. But yeah, I always said that I was family first, and yet I lived on the other side of the world, right? And I had a really easy excuse when we had Charlotte of we can't come home because the borders are shut. And I probably worked too hard that year. You know, I would type and podcast and parent with her in one hand. And then when we came home and it hit us in the face, and it was like, that was the test. And I think we passed it with flying colours, which is great. Again, there's times where I still work too hard now, and I thankfully don't miss the important stuff, but I've missed a dinner tonight and a bath time and putting kids to bed and dealing with the dog that they're terrified of and all that sort of shit. But I don't do it every week like I used to. So that's one of the reasons why I stopped doing world-class agency, because every week I was putting Lissy under undue pressure with one or two kids then. And so that's, I think when you find yourselves in those scenarios and somebody you care about wants to do something cool and you stand in their way, you're just reinforcing the value that you're pretending you don't have. And if you go the other way, then you're living the values that you just talk about all the time. And I don't think you're not tested enough. And the people that are, if they pass them, they're stoked.
Yeah.
Right? And if they don't, they can change or they can get angry.
But
it's a bit heavy.
That's it, mate. Mic drop. Like, we've gone all over, haven't we? You're like, if you haven't got something from this podcast, you have my full permission to delete from your following or your podcast selection and never listen to it ever again. Because if you not take anything from this episode, then you never will. Sam, mate, it's always an absolute pleasure, and it's always complete gold from start to finish whenever you're on here. So thank you so much for giving us your time this week. Unfortunately, Dave wasn't here. This is probably going to be the best pod that we've had because there's no Northern Monkeys on it. But if you're not following Happy Buyers Club and you're not following Sam Hunter, check him out on Instagram. You'll probably connect on Facebook. I mean, if you've been living under a rock and you don't know who Sam is, then get to know him.
Or if you've just been in real estate in the UK for the last 4 years, because I'm not really around there much anymore.
No, but there's a good chance that anyone that's listening to this doesn't know you from some. But if they don't, get to know, because he's a great guy. And if you are looking to buy in Australia or need any advice in Australia, then he is your man.
Andy P.
Ledge, mate, I love you so much. Thanks so much for this. And we will see you soon next week.
Thanks, bro.